Hey, I'm Dr. Nate Bosch with the Lilly Center for Lakes and Streams, and today we're going to answer the question, when it rains, where does all that water go? So we've got a little bit of a model right in front of me here that we're going to use to picture what this might look like. So we've got rainfall coming down, and as it hits the ground, there's a few different ways it can go. It can run off the surface of the ground. We call that surface runoff, as the name might suggest. And it can carry things with it when it does that pretty easily because it's right there at the surface of the soil or the pavement or whatever it's getting intercepted by. Some of the water can actually infiltrate into the soil itself and start to percolate down to lower soil levels, eventually getting down into even the groundwater. We call that our aquifers in northern Indiana here. And so wherever the rainfall is going to go, it's eventually going to move towards a water body. It could be a stream, it could be a lake, it could even be like what's behind me here, a wetland. We just have to have a low depression where the water is moving towards. This reminds me of the concept of a watershed. So the watershed is that boundary where all the water within that boundary all funnels and drains down to a specific point. Usually a wetland, a lake, or a stream. And so the water, you could think of it almost as a bowl or an upside down umbrella where all that water is collecting to a single spot. And we've got a great model of that right here in front of us. And so let's talk a little bit about that. I gotta tell you, this is taking me back to when I was in college. My very first internship in environmental science was taking an Enviroscape model like this around to different communities and libraries and stuff for an entire summer. So it's kind of fun 25 years later coming back to using this same sort of a model. So I've got some soil here and I'm going to put it on areas of the land that we might expect there to be soil. So we have a little agricultural field here that's depicted on our model. We have some bare soil areas here on some hills. Maybe there's some erosion going on these hills. We got a construction site over here. Maybe a new home is being built. And so we've got some exposed dirt in these sort of areas. We also, you notice right here along this stream bank here, we've got some exposed channel, and so we can have erosion all along that channel as well. We can also have wind erosion, and right now it's a little windy, and so some of the soil is just blowing around with the wind, and so that's actually a real thing in the environment as well. So we've got these areas of exposed soil, and then like happens, we get rainfall. And so as rain starts to come across the surface of the land, you can see that we've got water then running down, and it's moving right down to this lake here. So water that's going over our agricultural area, over these hills, over the stream channels, construction site. It's washing all of that water down to this collecting point. So all of this space is within the watershed. This rainfall is moving everything down. Now this model is made out of plastic, and so it's not going to allow infiltration or the water to get down into the soil. But in some instances, our land can be a little bit like plastic. I think of pavement like in a parking lot or along a roadway. Even some people's turf grass lawns around their homes can be pretty resistant to infiltration of water getting down. And so this might be a little more realistic than we might think, with water all getting funneled down. And so if we're looking at this receiving body of water, this lake here in our model, or in real life behind me, this wetland, all of those things that get washed off the land with the water are going to end up in that receiving body. And so that's why it's important for everybody. Everybody lives in a watershed. Everybody's going to have a piece of property that they have some influence over. And as water rushes over that or through that property, it's going to wash things with it. It could wash sediments with it, like we've depicted here with the soil that I put out here on our Enviroscape. It can also move things like nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, maybe toxic pollutants like oils or greases or those sorts of things, pesticides. Those things are going to end up in the receiving body of water, and it's going to start to degrade the quality of that receiving body of water. And so what we want to do is we want to keep the soils, keep the nutrients, we want to keep those things on the land rather than allow them to come through the watershed drainage into our receiving bodies of water. All right, so we've talked about where rain goes when it falls on the land, and we've talked about watersheds. What are some things that you can do on your own property to help protect that water and keep it cleaner as it's moving into those lakes and streams downslope? One thing that you can do is you can look at your bag of fertilizer and make sure it doesn't have any phosphorus in it. And so we want to use phosphorus-free fertilizer. The middle number of the three numbers needs to be 0. That's phosphorus-free. And we have plenty of phosphorus in our soils around the Midwestern United States. Typically, we don't need extra phosphorus to grow our gardens or to grow our turf grass lawns. If you're curious about that, you can ask us and we can help you with how to do soil testing, and you can know exactly what your soil needs, but typically we don't need phosphorus to be added. The second thing that you can consider on your own property would be to keep yard waste out of our lakes and streams. If you live along a lake or a stream, it's pretty obvious. You don't want to blow or put bags of that stuff into the lake or stream. If you live in a neighborhood away from a lake or stream, you're not off the hook, because in those neighborhoods, oftentimes driveways and the roads themselves will have storm drains in them. And those storm drains, if leaves and grass clippings get in those, they're going to go directly to one of our lakes and streams. No treatment, no filtering, just going to go right there. When that yard waste starts to decompose, once it gets to a lake or a stream, it's going to give off nitrogen, phosphorus. Hey, that's just like that fertilizer bag, right? So nitrogen, phosphorus, those things are going to be given off by that yard waste. And what do those nutrients do? Those nutrients start to grow excess weeds, excess algae, even blue-green algae, a type of algae that can produce toxins in our lakes, which can be harmful to people and their pets. So we want to be really careful that that stuff doesn't get into our local waterways. The third thing that you can do is having native plants on your property. Those native plants will help intercept and filter those nutrients and the sediments, the soil like we showed here, as they start to move towards those water bodies. Maybe they're going to move towards the water body by coming into a storm drain, or maybe they're going to move towards the water body directly along a lake shore or along a stream bank. Either way, those native plants are going to help buffer and help protect those water bodies. So again, to recap, we can use phosphorus-free fertilizer, we can prevent yard waste from getting into our lakes and streams, and we can also produce, or we can plant native plants on our properties, and that's going to help that rain that falls not to carry things into our lakes and streams that we don't want to be there.